All right, people. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. And let's take a look at Week 14. Let's see what happened and see how it helped or didn't help the Seahawks. We're obviously doing this a day late, but doesn't particularly matter for something like this when you're looking at the past. The past cannot change. The past is immutable. So, let's take a look at Week 14 here. And again, we're looking at things through two different lenses. One is the Seahawks and their playoff odds. Now, a lot of Seahawks fans are kind of hitting the eject button on the playoff stuff after what happened against the Panthers on Sunday, which is understandable. But we're going to continue to look at playoff stuff until we are officially eliminated because, of course, at the end of the day, that is the goal for any NFL season, right? You want to win enough games to make the postseason, and we're going to continue to take that trek seriously. And then, of course, you have the Broncos draft pick situation. So with that in mind, let's go move forward, starting with the game that happened nearly a week ago now on Thursday. Raiders-Rams, this was huge. This was kind of a surprise because the Raiders had been playing so well lately. And we got exactly what we needed. We got Baker Mayfield, of all people, going 99 yards with the game on the line against the Raiders. No, excuse me, I think it was 98 yards. Whatever. It was still incredible. It was still improbable. And we got what we needed. So now, because of that game, I think I may have already said this in a previous video. Sorry, my brain is not working at full capacity right now. I'm just going to be real here. I believe this now means that the Broncos can win another game, including their game against the Rams, and we would still pick in the top three. So that simplifies things a little bit. That gives us a little bit more room for error. And I believe it allows us to get a pretty solid blue chipper, regardless of the Broncos winning one more game. Now, if it's two games, it becomes a little more complicated. But for the moment, I think we can say that thanks to this Rams win, our ability to get that top three pick has become essentially solidified. We'll see what happens with the Broncos in the coming days concerning Wilson and the Cardinals concerning Kyler Murray, etc., etc. That stuff obviously matters. But for the moment, it looks like we've got that top three pick. So at least we got that going for us. So you go to Sunday. Now, obviously, a lot of the stuff I'm going to say in this video will be muted somewhat by the fact that the Seahawks lost, which was obviously a little bit of a disaster. But nevertheless, we're going to try to break everything down fairly. So moving past that game, which obviously did not go the way we wanted it to go, I don't think I need to expand on that. We got the Jets and the Bills. The Jets losing hurts the Broncos' strength of schedule, which is the only way that game really affected the Seahawks, I think. I guess the Bills winning is also kind of good because it forces the Chiefs to probably play all their starters through the whole season, which increases the odds of them beating the Broncos when they play again in a few weeks. Not that that was ever really a big concern anyway, but the Jets losing is objectively good because it hurts the Broncos' strength of schedule. Bengals-Browns was a game that I said didn't have any effect on the Seahawks whatsoever, and I more or less stand by that, so whatever you wanted, you can do. What I mean to say is whoever you wanted to root for, you can root for them. It doesn't really affect the Seahawks in any way. Bengals win. I don't think that really matters for the Seahawks at all. Maybe it forces the Chiefs to continue to play hard, but the Bills are already doing that, so yeah, I'm not really seeing how it matters. We got teased a little bit with the Texans-Cowboys. The Texans really should have won that game. They had every opportunity to put that game away and couldn't do it. And then they gave up the 98-yard touchdown drive. Just, you'd swear the Texans were throwing that game at the end. You'd swear the Texans were throwing that game. I don't really know how else to describe what I saw at the end of that game, but it was an absolute mess. And if the Texans had found a way to win that game, then we would have had to have a very serious conversation about the Seahawks getting the number 1 overall pick. At this point, I think it's super unlikely. You would need the Texans to beat the Jags and Colts. Those are probably their only real chances, and you're going to need them to do both. It can't just be one. It has to be both. So hard for me to believe that that's on the table. hard for me to believe that's a likely outcome here. I guess this game does prove the Texans are capable of playing decent football, but man, it's a lot to ask for this terrible team. And look, if you're a team like the Texans, you only have so many good performances in the tank. So if you have a good performance in a game as the Houston Texans, you got to find a way to win that game because you might not have another good performance for a couple months. So unfortunately, that's kind of dead. Unfortunate. Vikings, Lions won't go away. I kind of had a feeling this would happen, but I was hoping the Vikings could kind of put the Lions on ice because remember, we beat the Lions. So the tiebreaker situation, if they had lost this game, would have made it almost impossible for them to pass us. Now they are one game back. If you go to the playoff scenario thing, you can see the Lions are one game back, and they're also back the tiebreaker. So they're effectively back 2 games, but they might be able to make up those 2 games because the Lions are playing really well, and the Seahawks are not. Now, of course, that doesn't necessarily guarantee the Seahawks get into the playoffs because, I mean, you've still got the Commanders, you've still got the Giants, who you have to jump one of them. But I think that was very likely to happen if the Seahawks were playing competently. Right now, they're not. So, Lions won't go away. And even if the team like the Giants completely falls off a cliff, like the Giants might lose out. I could absolutely see the Giants losing out. Even if that happens now we have to worry about the Lions a little bit. The good news is, if the Seahawks right the ship even a little bit over the last month of the year and manage to have better results over their last 4 games and win, even 2 of them, it probably means that will have been enough to pass a team like the Giants or Commanders, and those 2 wins will have been enough to likely hold off the Lions, but we now have to entertain the possibility that the Lions do something like, say, win out. That's got to at least be on the table. They're playing about as good as any team in the league right now. All right, so we got Jaguars-Titans. Great result here. Jaguars pretty much removed themselves from the conversation of getting a top pick here by getting this win. They kind of already had because they beat Baltimore, but as you can see, their pick is now currently sitting at number 11. Very unlikely that they end up competing with the pick with Denver for their pick. So with that 2-game advantage plus a small strength of schedule advantage, I think Jacksonville's basically removed themselves from that conversation. Great news. Speaking of great news, Eagles-Giants. Eagles put the beat down on the Giants, which would have the Seahawks in the playoffs were it not for the stupid tie that they had against the Commanders. That tie, okay, let me be very clear about something here. The Seahawks are falling apart. If they don't make the playoffs, it's completely on them. And we can't blame outside factors for this stuff. But that stupid tie the Commanders and Giants had, very good chance that ends up completely boning us. So, not thrilled about that right now, I will admit. But we did get the result we needed here. The Giants do look like they're poised to have a massive, massive falling apart in the final part of their schedule here. And if they do, then the Seahawks may be in position to back into the playoffs. Not the position you want to be, but I will take it. I want to back into the playoffs if that is if that's the way we get in, then so be it. Even if it means we get killed in the first playoff game, so be it. I can deal with that. I can live with that. All right. Ravens, Steelers. I don't think it matters that much at this point. Technically, I did make the argument that we were rooting for the Steelers in this game just because the Ravens and Broncos had played each other. So for strength of schedule purposes, we wanted the Ravens to lose. And the Steelers also are in play for a top pick, but not really at this point. They already have 5 wins. You can see right now they're picking 13, so they're kind of already out of that race anyway. Not a huge deal, but not the desired outcome here. Chiefs, Broncos. Weird game, definitely a weird game flow. We eventually got the outcome desired, but very weird path that this game took to get there. Mahomes decided to just completely lose lose control. Apparently, I don't know if he was colorblind for most of this game. He just started throwing interceptions like the ball was, like he's just trying to give the ball away. I don't know. But 34-28, we got what we wanted. Buccaneers versus 49ers, on the other hand, not so much. I cannot believe that Tom Brady threw away his marriage for this. He threw away his marriage to play for a below-average football team that is going to back into the playoffs and get destroyed in the first round. I don't think that's a worthwhile trade. But at this point, the 49ers, they're winning the division. And that would be the case even if they lost this game. If they lost this game to the Buccaneers, they'd still win the division. So, to heck with it all, I guess. But, yeah, if there was any doubt, they're going to win the division now. Dolphins-Chargers, it wasn't a huge deal, but the strength of schedule stuff made it so that we wanted the Dolphins to win. What I will say, though, is that the Chargers are more likely to be motivated to win that game in Week 18 against the Broncos now that they're probably going to be in the playoff race. If you look at the AFC right now, you can see that they are currently the first team on the bubble of the wildcard race. In fact, I believe they are competing with the Dolphins, the Patriots, who they have the same record as. And they're also in a tiebreaker race with the Jets. So the Chargers winning that game keeps them in the playoff hunt, which is fortuitous for us, I think. We don't want the Chargers to be throwing in the towel on a game in Week 18. So there's an argument to be made either way. Can't be that bad for the Chargers to continue to have things to play for. Patriots-Cardinals, the strength of schedule thing for the Broncos made us want the Patriots to win this game, I think, and they did. So that's cool. We do have to be a little bit concerned about the Cardinals picking ahead of Denver in the draft, but if you take a look at the strength of schedule for the Cardinals versus the Broncos, it's unlikely. So I think this is probably a good outcome. And that's it for how did things go in the most recent NFL week. See you guys later. Go Hawks.